Sophie collapsed across her husband. He pleaded with her not to die for their children. Blood filled his mouth and uniform. Both were dead within a short time. The heir to the Habsburg throne and the wife whom the court had refused to treat as his equal were murdered together. Even in death protocol followed them. Sophie's coffin was placed lower and given fewer symbols of rank. Their children, excluded from succession by the marriage agreement, became orphans but not imperial heirs. Europe reacted with shock, but not immediate certainty of world war. Franz Joseph had not been close to his nephew. Many at the Viennese court disliked Franz Ferdinand. Yet leaders in Austria-Hungary saw the assassination as an opportunity to crush Serbia's challenge. Germany offered strong support, later called the blank check. Officials drafted an ultimatum designed to be extremely difficult for Serbia to accept in full. Nearly a month passed between the murders and the ultimatum, giving the crisis a deceptive slowness. Serbia accepted many demands but rejected or qualified provisions that threatened its sovereignty. Austria-Hungary declared war on July 28, 1914. The alliance system and mobilization plans transformed a Balkan war into a continental and then global conflict. Russia mobilized in support of Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia and France. Germany invaded Belgium, bringing Britain into the war. Empires recruited troops and labor from colonies across the world. The shots in Sarajevo did not mechanically cause every decision, but they opened a chain of choices made by leaders who believed war was preferable to retreat. Austria-Hungary entered the First World War believing that a limited, punishing campaign against Serbia could restore its authority. Instead, it marched into a struggle for which its political system, economy, and army were only partly prepared. Mobilization exposed the empire's scale and diversity. Orders traveled in multiple languages. Trains carried soldiers from Galicia, Bohemia, Hungary, Croatia, Bosnia, Austria, and the Adriatic coast toward fronts hundreds of miles apart. Men who had never visited Vienna wore the emperor's uniform. Some fought from loyalty, some from duty, some from fear of punishment, and some because their villages mobilized together. The common assumption that national minorities immediately refused to fight is misleading. In 1914, many units displayed genuine imperial patriotism. The deeper collapse came after years of death, hunger, inequality, and lost faith. The first campaigns were disastrous. Austro-Hungarian forces invaded Serbia but suffered humiliating defeats at Ser and Kalabara. The chief of the General Staff, Franz Conrad von Hotzendorf, had long advocated preventive war and imagined decisive offensives. His plans underestimated terrain, logistics, enemy strength, and the limits of his own army. On the Eastern Front, Russia invaded Galicia. Battles around Lemberg, now Lviv, cost enormous casualties. The fortress of Przemysl was surrounded and eventually surrendered in 1915, sending more than 100,000 Habsburg troops into captivity. The war intensified suspicion inside the monarchy. Authorities feared Russian influence among Ruthenians or Ukrainians and suspected Serbian disloyalty in Bosnia and other South Slav regions. Civilians were arrested, deported, interned, or executed. Military justice could be brutal. In Galicia, retreating forces sometimes accused local people of espionage without reliable evidence. The empire that had prided itself on legal administration adopted emergency practices that damaged the loyalty it desperately needed. Germany became Austria-Hungary's indispensable ally and increasingly its senior partner. German troops helped reverse Russian advances in 1915 during the Gorlice-Darno offensive. Bulgaria joined the Central Powers, and Serbia was overrun later that year by coordinated attacks. The Serbian army and many civilians retreated through the Albanian mountains in terrible conditions. Occupation brought reprisals, forced labor, requisitions, and resistance. Vienna had achieved the conquest it sought, but only inside a war expanding beyond control. Italy's entry in 1915 opened another front. Although Italy had belonged to the Triple Alliance with Austria-Hungary and Germany, it had remained neutral in 1914 and negotiated with both sides. The Entente powers promised Italian-speaking territories under Habsburg rule, including Trentino, Trieste, and parts of the Adriatic coast. Italy declared war on Austria-Hungary in May 1915. Fighting along the Isonzo River and in the Alps became some of the most punishing of the war. Soldiers climbed icy cliffs, tunneled through mountains, hauled artillery to impossible positions, and died in avalanches as well as combat. 11 Italian offensives along the Isonzo achieved limited gains at immense cost. In 1917, Austro-Hungarian and German forces broke the Italian line at Caporetto, advancing dramatically before supply problems and resistance stopped them. The war reached homes through absence and hunger. Britain and its allies imposed an economic blockade on the Central Powers. Agriculture suffered from the loss of labor, horses, fertilizer, and transport. The dual monarchy's internal division made distribution worse. Hungary, a major food producer, guarded its supplies, while Vienna and industrial regions faced severe shortages. Queues lengthened. Bread quality declined. Women spent hours searching for food, fuel, and clothing. Children became malnourished. Black markets flourished. Class resentment sharpened because the wealthy often found ways to buy what ordinary families could not. Parliament in the Austrian half had been suspended at the beginning of the war, allowing rule by decree. Military authorities gained extraordinary influence. Censorship hid defeats and suffering, but letters, funerals, wounded veterans, and empty shops told the truth. National political leaders began to reconsider their futures. Some still hoped for reform within the monarchy. Others increasingly looked toward independence and support from the Entente. Franz Joseph remained emperor through the first 2 years of war. By then he was in his 80s, physically diminished but committed to routine. He received reports, signed papers, and followed military events from a world that seemed to be destroying everything he represented. His reign had begun amid the revolutions of 1848 and now approached its end amid industrialized slaughter. He had survived his brother Maximilian, his son Rudolf, his wife Elizabeth, and his nephew Franz Ferdinand. Personal loss had become inseparable from imperial history. On November 21, 1916, Franz Joseph died at Schönbrunn Palace after developing pneumonia. He had reigned since 1848. His funeral brought the old monarchy together in ritual mourning. Soldiers, officials, clergy, and crowds watched the procession. The coffin entered the Capuchin crypt, joining generations of Habsburg dead. Many subjects who criticized the government still felt that a permanent figure had vanished. The empire without Franz Joseph seemed suddenly more mortal. The throne passed to his great-nephew Karl, or Charles, who became Emperor Karl I of Austria and King Charles IV of Hungary. He was 29, married to Zita of Bourbon-Parma, and had not expected to inherit so soon. Unlike Franz Joseph, Karl had battlefield experience and young children. He understood that the monarchy could not survive indefinite war. He dismissed Conrad and sought greater personal control of military policy. He restored the Austrian parliament in 1917 and issued amnesties, hoping to reduce repression and rebuild trust. Karl's central goal was peace. Through his wife's brothers, Princes Sixtus and Xavier of Bourbon-Parma, who served with Belgium, he opened secret contacts with the Allies. In letters, he indicated willingness to support the restoration of Belgium and consider French claims to Alsace-Lorraine, territory controlled by Germany. These Sixtus negotiations failed because Allied demands, Italian territorial ambitions, German dependence, and the complexity of secret diplomacy made agreement nearly impossible. When the contacts became public in 1918, Karl denied or minimized them. French Prime Minister Georges Clemenceau published one of the emperor's letters, humiliating him and making Austria-Hungary appear both disloyal to Germany and incapable of independent peace. Karl also confronted the monarchy's national problem. He considered federal reform but moved too slowly and faced resistance. especially from Hungarian leaders who feared losing control over non-Magyar territories. Any transformation required decisions about borders, parliaments, languages, and power. Each proposal created winners and losers. During wartime, trust had collapsed. National councils abroad, supported by emigrants and allied governments, gained credibility. Tomáš Garriga Masaryk and Edvard Beneš campaigned for an independent Czechoslovakia. South Slav leaders promoted unification. Polish politicians anticipated a restored Polish state. Romanian claims focused on Transylvania. Italian leaders demanded the lands promised in the secret Treaty of London. The United States entered the war in April 1917, initially against Germany and later against Austria-Hungary in December. President Woodrow Wilson presented the conflict as a struggle for a new international order. His 14 points of January 1918 called for autonomous development for the peoples of Austria-Hungary, not yet the immediate destruction of the empire. But as the war continued, American policy shifted toward recognition of Czechoslovak and South Slav aspirations. Ethnic organizations in the United States lobbied intensely. Immigrant communities held meetings, raised funds, recruited volunteers, and argued over the future of their homelands. Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Chicago, New York, and other American cities became political arenas in the dismantling of the Habsburg state. The Russian Revolution briefly seemed to improve the Central Powers' position. The Bolshevik government withdrew from the war, and the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk in March 1918 ended the Eastern Front. Austria-Hungary gained access in theory to Ukrainian grain, though deliveries disappointed expectations. Germany launched great offensives in the West. Yet the Central Powers were exhausted. American troops arrived in growing numbers. Food shortages worsened. Strikes spread. Soldiers deserted or returned from Russian captivity transformed by revolution and hardship. In June 1918, Austria-Hungary launched an offensive against Italy along the Piave River. It failed catastrophically. Troops were underfed, supplies inadequate, and coordination poor. The army still fought, but its physical condition reflected the state behind it. In October, Italy attacked at Vittorio Veneto. Habsburg units disintegrated unevenly as national councils declared independence and soldiers learned that the countries for which they might be expected to die were changing by the hour. Karl made a final attempt to federalize the Austrian half of the monarchy in October 1918, proposing autonomous national units. The manifesto came too late and did not apply to the lands of the Hungarian crown, whose leaders resisted. Czechoslovak independence was declared. South Slav representatives announced a new state. Hungary terminated the real union with Austria. Polish authorities took control in Galicia. Local officials, soldiers, and railway workers shifted allegiance from imperial institutions to national governments. The collapse was not one dramatic storming of a palace. It was an administrative evaporation. Ministries still issued orders that provinces no longer obeyed. Regiments stopped being imperial and began identifying as Czech, Hungarian, Polish, German-Austrian, Romanian, Croatian, Slovene, or Ukrainian. Trains filled with men trying to return home through territories where borders had not yet been agreed. Warehouses, weapons, archives, debts, and railway cars had to be divided among successor states. The monarchy that had accumulated lands through centuries of marriages and treaties dissolved in weeks. An armistice with Italy was signed at Villa Giusti on November 3, 1918, taking effect the following day under confused terms that contributed to the capture of large numbers of troops. On November 11th, the day Germany's armistice ended fighting on the Western Front, Karl issued a declaration renouncing participation in Austrian state affairs, though he did not formally use the word abdication. On November 13th, he issued a similar statement for Hungary. He believed the crown was a sacred duty that he could not simply surrender. The new republics considered his reign finished. Karl and Zita left Schönbrunn and later Austria. The Austrian Republic passed the Habsburg Law in 1919, removing the dynasty from power, confiscating certain family property, and requiring Habsburgs who wished to live in Austria to renounce ruling claims and accept republican citizenship. Karl went into exile in Switzerland but remained determined to recover the Hungarian throne. In 1921, he made 2 restoration attempts. Hungarian regent Miklós Horthy, once an admiral in the Habsburg Navy, refused to return power, partly because neighboring states threatened intervention and the victorious allies opposed restoration. After the second attempt, Karl and Zita were taken into Allied custody and sent to the Portuguese island of Madeira. Their financial situation was difficult. Karl became ill with pneumonia and died in 1922 at the age of 34. Zita was pregnant with their 8th child. Supporters later portrayed him as a Christian peacemaker who had tried to end the war. Critics noted that he remained head of a state fighting a destructive conflict and never fully abandoned dynastic restoration. The Catholic Church beatified him in 2004, recognizing his religious devotion and peace efforts. His political life remains a subject of argument, like so much of Habsburg history. The peace settlements after World War I redrew Central Europe. Austria became a small German-speaking republic centered on Vienna, a former imperial capital far larger than its reduced state seemed able to support. Hungary lost roughly 2/3 of the territory of the historic kingdom under the Treaty of Trianon, leaving millions of ethnic Hungarians outside its borders. Czechoslovakia united Czech lands with Slovakia and Subcarpathian Ruthenia. The kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes, later Yugoslavia, brought South Slav territories together under the Serbian dynasty. Romania gained Transylvania and other lands. Poland re-emerged. Italy received South Tyrol, Trentino, Trieste, and Istria, though not every territory promised during the war. The new borders followed national claims but could not create ethnically uniform states. Germans lived in Czechoslovakia and Italy. Hungarians lived in Romania, Czechoslovakia, and Yugoslavia. Ukrainians, Poles, Jews, Romanians, Slovaks, Croats, Serbs, Slovenes, Italians, and others remained minorities. The empire's old diversity did not disappear. It was divided among national states. In some places, minorities gained rights and cultural opportunities. In others, they faced pressure, discrimination, population transfer, or later violence. The successor states inherited Habsburg railways, legal codes, schools, civil servants, buildings, habits, and disputes. Vienna struggled with food shortages, unemployment, and the loss of its imperial hinterland, yet it also became a laboratory of democratic social policy known as Red Vienna. Municipal housing, public health programs, education, and cultural initiatives sought to improve working-class life. Budapest endured revolution, counter-revolution, and territorial trauma. Prague became the capital of Czechoslovakia, preserving both Habsburg architecture and a new republican identity. Across the region, statues were removed, street names changed, imperial symbols dismantled, and national histories rewritten. The Habsburgs were cast as foreign oppressors in some narratives and remembered as guarantors of order in others. The last imperial children grew up in exile. Otto von Habsburg, eldest son of Karl and Zita, became head of the family after his father's death. For years, monarchists viewed him as the legitimate emperor and king. He was educated in several languages and inherited a political identity spanning borders that no longer existed. During the rise of Adolf Hitler, Otto opposed Nazism and rejected the annexation of Austria by Germany. Hitler despised the Habsburg tradition as a rival model of supranational legitimacy and reportedly ordered action against Restoration supporters. After the Anschluss in 1938, monarchists and former Habsburg loyalists were among those arrested. The family fled across Europe and eventually to the United States during World War II. Zita and some of her children spent time in North America. Otto lived in Washington and worked to support Austrian independence and a post-war European order. The dynasty that had once ruled from Madrid, Prague, Budapest, and Vienna now depended on visas, allies, and exile networks. Its members entered the same Atlantic world that millions of former imperial subjects had entered as immigrants. After the war, Otto became an advocate of European integration. He believed that nationalism had helped destroy the old monarchy and then contributed to the catastrophes of fascism and war. He served for many years in the European Parliament and supported the expansion of a peaceful, democratic Europe across former Cold War divisions. He formally renounced claims to the Austrian throne in 1961, a step required for entry into Austria under the Habsburg law, though political controversy delayed his return. In 1989, Otto helped sponsor the Pan-European picnic near the Hungarian-Austrian border, an event during which hundreds of East Germans crossed from Hungary into Austria. The opening became one of the symbolic cracks in the Iron Curtain. It was a remarkable historical reversal. A descendant of emperors associated with borders, armies, and dynastic rule participated in a movement toward a Europe in which borders would become less restrictive and political legitimacy would rest on democratic institutions. Zita lived until 1989, never renouncing her belief that Karl had been lawful emperor. When she died, she received a grand funeral in Vienna and was buried in the imperial crypt. Her heart, following Habsburg tradition, was placed separately in Switzerland near Karl's. Otto died in 2011. His funeral again used elements of the knocking ceremony at the Capuchin Church. The long list of titles was refused, and he entered finally as a mortal and sinner. Crowds watched a ritual from an empire dead for nearly a century. The modern Habsburg family is large and dispersed. Its members have worked in politics, diplomacy, business, academia, the arts, and other professions. They possess no throne and no unified political program. Some use the surname Habsburg-Lothringen. Their public roles vary by country. The dynasty survives biologically and culturally, but not as a sovereign institution. Palaces belong largely to states, museums, foundations, or other owners. Imperial collections are public heritage. The family name remains a brand of history more than a command. Yet the House of Habsburg did not disappear in 1918 because dynasties leave structures behind. Modern Austria's administrative traditions, Central European legal systems, city plans, archives, rail routes, universities, churches, museums, and borders all carry traces of Habsburg decisions. The same is true in Spain, Belgium, the Netherlands, Italy, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Croatia, Slovenia, Romania, Poland, Ukraine, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Mexico, and former colonies across the world. The traces are not always monuments. They appear in land records, family names, minority communities, military cemeteries, recipes, musical traditions, and old bureaucratic words. The dynasty's cultural collections became among its most visible legacies. Habsburg rulers understood art as pleasure, knowledge, devotion, and power. They commissioned portraits that traveled to prospective spouses, allowing royal families to inspect one another before marriage. They collected armor that turned bodies into political sculpture. They gathered ancient objects, exotic materials, clocks, maps, manuscripts, scientific instruments, and natural specimens. The Kunsthistorisches Museum in Vienna preserves masterpieces associated with imperial collecting, including works by Bruegel, Titian, Velázquez, Rubens, and many others. The Spanish royal collections helped form the Prado. Libraries and archives preserve documents from an administration that tried to record an empire into existence. Music may be the most emotionally powerful Habsburg inheritance. Vienna's position as an imperial capital brought together patrons, performers, composers, instrument makers, and audiences. Haydn worked for the Esterházy family within the Habsburg world. Mozart sought court and public success in Vienna. Beethoven arrived from Bonn and stayed. Schubert, Brahms, Bruckner, Mahler, the Strauss family, and countless others made the city synonymous with musical life. Not all were court servants, and their art cannot be reduced to dynastic policy. But the social ecosystem that sustained them was shaped by imperial institutions and cosmopolitan movement. The Habsburg myth also survives in tourism and popular culture. Visitors encounter Schönbrunns golden mirrors, the Hofburg's courtyards, Sisi's portraits, the Spanish riding school, crown jewels, cafes, pastries, uniforms, and waltzes. Films often turn the empire into a pastel world of romance. Nostalgia smooths away censorship, poverty, military discipline, ethnic inequality, colonial exploitation, and war. Anti-Habsburg narratives can be equally simple, presenting 6 centuries as nothing but oppression. The real story is harder and more interesting because it contains both creation and coercion. One of the most famous physical symbols, the Habsburg jaw, has encouraged a morality tale about incest and decline. Portraits of Charles V, Philip IV, Mariana of Austria, and Charles II show the characteristic lower face with varying severity. Genealogical research has demonstrated extraordinarily high levels of relatedness in the Spanish line. Charles II's parents were uncle and niece. His ancestry repeated individuals so frequently that his genetic inbreeding coefficient has been estimated at a level comparable to the child of very close relatives. Infant mortality and infertility plagued the family. Still, it would be inaccurate to claim that every Habsburg illness or political failure resulted from inbreeding. The Austrian line continued through Habsburg-Lorraine, and many members lived long lives. Genetics contributed to the extinction of the Spanish branch, but institutions, wars, economies, and individual decisions shaped the dynasty's fate. The marriage strategy itself deserves a balanced judgment. It was not magical. Maximilian's marriage to Mary of Burgundy brought valuable lands, but also generations of war with France. Philip's marriage to Joanna connected the Habsburgs to Spain, but the inheritance occurred only because a series of other heirs died. Ferdinand's marriage to Anna supported claims to Bohemia and Hungary, but those crowns had to be defended through elections, negotiation, and war. Marie Antoinette's marriage to Louis XVI did not preserve the French alliance or save either monarchy. Marie-Louise's marriage to Napoleon did not secure his dynasty. Habsburg marriages worked when supported by military, financial, and political power. They failed when treated as substitutes for consent. The dynasty's repeated claim to defend universal order also contained contradiction. Charles V imagined a Christian empire while his forces sacked Rome and colonizers conquered indigenous states. Philip II defended Catholic unity while rebellion tore apart the Netherlands. Ferdinand too sought religious and political order while the 30 Years' War devastated German lands. Maria Theresa reformed administration while persecuting religious minorities. Joseph II promoted toleration and peasant freedom through authoritarian decrees. Franz Joseph granted constitutions while preserving imperial hierarchy. Karl sought peace while remaining monarch of a belligerent state. Habsburg rulers were neither uniquely hypocritical nor uniquely noble. They were human beings operating inside systems that magnified their virtues and mistakes across millions of lives. For the United States, the Habsburg story offers more than exotic kings and palaces. Habsburg Spain shaped the first centuries of European colonization in the Americas. Silver extracted under Spanish rule affected global trade, linking mines in the Americas to merchants in Europe and Asia. The Philippines received its name from Philip II. The 7 Years' War connected Maria Theresa's struggle with Frederick the Great to battles involving British colonists and native nations in North America. Kossuth's American tour influenced debates about liberty and foreign policy. The fall of Maximilian's Mexican Empire intersected with the Union victory in the Civil War and the Monroe Doctrine. Habsburg immigrants and former subjects became Americans. Woodrow Wilson's policies helped determine the monarchy's final diplomatic isolation. During World War II, Habsburg exiles worked from the United States against Nazi domination. There is also an American warning in the dynasty's history. Political systems can endure for centuries and still appear permanent immediately before collapse. They survive not because they are simple, but because enough people find them useful, legitimate, or preferable to the alternatives. They fail when institutions cannot adapt, when elites protect privilege at the cost of common loyalty, when citizens experience law as unequal, and when leaders mistake delay for stability. Austria-Hungary did not collapse merely because it contained many languages. The United States also contains immense diversity. The imperial crisis came because representation, power, and identity were arranged in ways that too many communities regarded as unfair, and because war destroyed the compromises that had allowed daily life to continue. The deepest explanation for Habsburg longevity lies in the fact that the dynasty was never only a family and never only a state. It was a method of assembling difference without fully erasing it. When a Habsburg inherited a kingdom, the new ruler usually swore a separate oath, confirmed local privileges, negotiated taxes with the states, and governed through existing institutions. There was no single Habsburg citizenship in the modern sense. A noble in Bohemia, a merchant in Antwerp, a farmer in Tyrol, a magnate in Hungary, and a lawyer in Milan could all be subjects of the same ruler while living under different laws. This arrangement frustrated centralizers, but it helped the monarchy expand. Conquerors who demand immediate uniformity often provoke resistance. The Habsburgs usually began by adding a crown to their title and leaving much of the local machinery in place.